Hey y'all, this is Rod, and what I'd like to do is tell a story about my dad, largely for the benefit of extended family members and family friends and stuff who didn't get many of the details of the last couple years of his life. He moved back in with me in, I want to say it was the end of January of 2007, I believe. And we were playing music at the house probably 4 nights a week. And he'd gotten really enchanted by it. And you know, at this time he's 83 years old. His central vision's totally gone. Macular degeneration had taken out his foveas, and he couldn't read, he couldn't watch TV, he couldn't drive. And one night he came to me and asked me if I would teach him to play the guitar. And my dad has never, asked me anything like that before. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, Daddy, why don't we start with keyboards? That would probably be easier. And he said, what's that? And I said, it's an electric piano. And he looked at me and he said, tomorrow at this time, I'm going to be a musician. And there was just something about the way that he said it that stopped me in my tracks. And so the next morning I got up, had the gear set up, had the keyboard turned on, and I was getting my guitar ready, assuming that I was going to be strumming some chords and he was going to be dinking around on the keyboard. And I was bent over, adjusting something, and all of a sudden he started playing. And and he had never spent any time on any musical instrument, but certainly not a piano. And he just took off, and he started. I could have been looking at Thelonious Monk. It was this avant-garde jazz, really melodic, Wagnerian sort of avant-garde jazz, and I'm standing there with my jaw hanging down, and he's just. He's putting together these chords with his left hand and playing these melodies on top of it with his right hand, and just listening and just making these beautiful sounds. And I was absolutely astounded. And luckily, sometime later we recorded a bunch of it, and that stuff's on the web now. It's at myspace.com/Marshall Soul, which was the band name that we used for him. There are a number of tracks there. And for anybody that wants one, I can send you a CD as well. So he did it maybe 4 times, maybe 5 times, and then adamantly refused to ever do it again. It absolutely broke my heart. But because it wasn't what he thought music should sound like, and because he couldn't reproduce what he played, he felt like what he was doing didn't really count, and thought that all of my, exhortations about it were just, bullshit, basically. So that was, summer of 2007 or so. And again, he never touched the keyboard again. Would not listen to the stuff that we recorded ever again. And so right before he died, a couple months before he died, he was down in Portland at this time, staying at this wonderful care facility down there called Harvest Homes. And he did something that he has never done in the whole time I've known him. He contacted me by phone twice in a single week, and that's never happened before. He had Sally call me and ask me if I'd come down to see him, and he did that twice in a week. So I made my way down there, not knowing how long I was going to be staying. I ended up staying about 5 days. And I took a copy of the disc with me. And I was sitting there in the room with him, and he was bedridden by that time. And I put the disc in the player, and I didn't tell him who it was. And he laid back in his bed and was just digging it. And I leaned over and I said, hey man, I said, you made this. And he got this look on his face where, he knew that I was telling the truth. He knew it was him, but he had not the first memory of having done it. And he laid back in his bed and just absolutely blissed out. and we're sitting there, and the hospice nurse and one of the nurses from the facility come walking in the room, and the hospice nurse just stops in her tracks, and she looks around and she says, "What is this?" And I said, "It's music that he made." And she's like, "You're kidding." And I'm like, "No." She says, "This is deeply mystical." And the nurse right behind her says, "This is giving me chills." And so over the course of the next 3 days, I ended up making 15 copies of this disc because all the staff wanted a copy. Everybody was talking about it. And the last night I was there, I wandered into the dining room at one point, and they were playing it on the stereo in the dining room. And there were probably, I don't know, 10 or 12 oldsters in there just kicked back and digging it. And there was this young girl, probably 21, 22, who works there, really nice girl, and she was sitting by this elderly, beautiful elderly woman, and she had her head leaned against the woman's shoulder, and she looks up at me and she says, "It's just perfect, isn't it?" So Daddy, you know, went out. You know, he was discovered as this undiscovered musical genius there on his deathbed, there on his way out, which, you know, I thought was a really beautiful way for him to go. There'll be one more chapter of this story coming along real soon. Okay, hope you're all well. See ya.
Ah.